Call to the member for Newcastle.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Employment and Workplace Relations. Why is action to stop wage theft so important, and how will the Albanese Labor government's closing loopholes legislation protect workers from having their wages stolen?
Call to the Minister for Employment, Workplace Relations and the Minister for the Arts.
Thanks very much, Mr Speaker, and I thank the member for Newcastle, someone who fights for jobs in Newcastle every single day, for good, secure jobs. The good news that has come through in terms of number of people in work, in terms of wages finally getting moving, is welcome, but let's not pretend it's shared to everybody. It is true that wage growth under the Coalition never had a 4 in front of it, never had a 3 in front of it, and the average barely had a 2 in front of it. Barely had a 2 in front of it. But it's also the case that even with wage growth finally coming through, now that we no longer have a government where low wage growth is a deliberate design feature of how they manage the economy, if you are somebody who is having your wages stolen, you are not seeing this. Now, if we think about when this issue really came to public life, because I want to describe, because not every underpayment is wage theft, we know that. But let's have a think and remember what happened with those 7-Eleven cases. There were 2 different forms of wage theft that we watched. The first was the half-pay scam, where people would be rostered formally for half the hours they actually worked. So in terms of the books, nothing was wrong. In terms of the difference between their hours at work and their pay, they were getting half of what they were actually doing. And the second form of wage theft that we saw then was the cashback scheme, where you'd be paid the correct amount and the manager would walk you across the store to the ATM in the corner, get you to take a chunk of your pay out and hand it back to the manager. Now, if that exact same worker, had walked back around behind the counter and taken money from the till, it would be a criminal offence. But because it was the employer stealing the money at work, it was not a criminal offence. Now, more than 1,000 days, nearly 1,000 days ago, I saw something that was extraordinary, where the opposition, having introduced laws to make wage theft a criminal offence, in the Senate voted against that provision that they themselves had introduced. And nearly 1,000 days later, this morning, they did it again. They did it again, where the one crime they seem to be relaxed about never putting on the books is whether a worker has their wages stolen. Loopholes need to be closed. Workers should not be in a situation where somehow, if theft occurs to them, it's just always something we turn a blind eye to. It needs to be a crime. The loophole